This is the Lesson 9 video notes on junk and divide. We're actually going to spend a couple minutes on making sure we understand how to find what we call the junk of the equation. If you take a look at example 1, again, our unwritten rules are make sure we draw the wall, and in this case, write down the equal sign, and we are going to look at the x side. Now again, my kids don't ever mark it like this, just so you guys know. But basically, we're looking at the x side. This is so important. Remember, ultimately, we're trying to get x alone down here. So we're really just trying to get rid of this number and this number. Once those disappear, we've basically solved. So what we're going to make sure is our order is correct. The key to the whole thing is we never mess with the x part first. This extra piece over here we're calling the junk. That is what we're going to get rid of first. So this is the junk. To make negative 23 disappear, obviously, we're just going to do a positive or a plus 23. The rule is whatever I write on one side of the wall, I write on the other. I always draw a total line, the old accounting. That lets me know that I'm going to be adding or subtracting these two. Again, that sign tells me what to do. Let's take a look at example 2. Example 2. Again, we draw the wall. We always go to the x side of the wall. So now my eyes are focused on this side. Again, I don't really care what happens to this side. I am more interested in making these two numbers disappear so that x is alone. So again, I don't ever mess with the x part first. This is considered the extra junk, and we would make that disappear. Now be careful. That negative sign belongs to the 2. So this 4 is really an invisible positive 4. To make that disappear, we're going to do a negative or a minus 4. Whatever I write on one side of the wall, I write on the other. So again, all we're doing is making sure we understand where the junk of the equation is, not with the x, but the extra stuff on the x side of the wall. Take a moment to read the next section of notes. Now that you've looked at some examples on the full process of junk and divide, let's take a look and go through some video notes. Example 1. So once again, our rules are straight. We're always going to draw that line down the equal sign. We're going to look for the junk on the x side of the wall. In this case, the junk is the minus 35. So to make a negative disappear, we write positive. Again, it also means plus. We talked about that in the first lesson. Whatever you write on one side, you write on the other. I make my kids draw that total line, and we let the calculator do the rest of the work. Again, these disappear, which is why we did in the first place. Bring the 5x down, equals negative 91. Okay, so our first step is always junk, and then the second words out of our mouth are divide. So whatever's in front of the x, fraction bar 5, fraction bar 5. And again, we let our calculator do the work. Negative 91 divided by 5 is negative 18.2. Two words, junk and divide. All right, let's take a look at example 2. Okay, once again, our unwritten rules. Draw the wall, locate the x side of the wall, get rid of the junk. Now again, this 18 is positive, even though it's not written, so to make it disappear, we do negative or minus. Whatever I write on one side, I write on the other. And again, we let the calculator do the work. Bring the negative 2x down. Biggest mistake I see from most of my young kids is they forget to bring this negative down. Equals 99. So that takes care of the junk. Next step, divide. Whatever's in front of that x, fraction bar negative 2, fraction bar negative 2. That cancels that out, leaving me with what I want, just the x. And again, let the calculator do the work. We're here at negative 49.5. Let's take a look at example 3. Now what makes this a little different is as we draw the wall, we notice that the x side is on the right, Now, naturally, our minds don't like that because we work from left to right, but that's the rule. So we are not going to worry about what's with the x. We worry about the junk. That is a positive 11, even though we don't see the sign. So we're going to subtract 11. Again, minus 11. Draw the total line. These disappear, which is why we did it in the first place. And then again, we let our calculator do the work. This ends up being negative 196. I forget my equal sign. That's the junk. Again, junk first, divide second. Consistent routine to solve. And I'm getting 65.3 repeating. Okay, so again, this is it. The rules are straightforward. Don't make it more than it is. Junk and divide. This next page deals with what we call curveballs. They look a little strange, but if you stick to your rules, everything works out. Let's start with example 1. Again, we're going to draw a wall. We're going to go to the x side of the wall and get rid of the junk. So we've got a positive 14. So of course we're going to subtract 14. Let our calculator do the work. We end up with negative 148. And again, the biggest mistake you're going to find is that students forget to bring that negative sign down. So remember, our rules say junk and divide. So we're supposed to be dividing by something. And in this case, it's not so obvious. But it is a negative 1. So we're going to divide by negative 1. Make sure you stick with your rules, junk and divide. So if you do this in your calculator or in your head, you know that the two negatives creates a positive 148. So really not as difficult as it looks. That's curveball number 1. Curveball number 2. Honestly, it's not much of a curveball. It's really just tough to put into your calculator. So let's stick with our rules. We're going to draw the wall, locate the x side of the wall, and get rid of the junk. So in this case, we're going to add 17 or plus 17. Draw our total line like we always do. Let our calculator or our minds do the work. 75. And on the other side, we're going to bring down 2/3 x. Now the rules say junk and divide. So as ugly as this looks, I'm going to stick with my rules. I'm going to put a big fraction bar, divide by 2/3. Whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do the other. Now the reason why this is so difficult is really you have to just press the right buttons in your calculator. Most of us, our calculators have the ability to do 2/3 now. So most of my kids type in 75, they hit the division sign, and then they put in the fraction 2/3. In either case, you end up with an answer of x equals, and I have 225 over 2. And depending on how your calculator is set up, you guys might get 112.5. So again, this is more button pressing than anything else. And if we want to make this look a little nicer, we'll get rid of that. So that's what you should end up with. Let's take a look at example 3. Now the reason example 3 is there is the obvious reason x is on the other side. So we know that we have to get rid of the junk over here, which is a positive 4, so we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. Draw our total line. Now we're bringing x down, and we end up with negative 121 on the left side. Now, our rule says junk and divide. The question is, what did we divide here? The truth is, we are dividing by an invisible 1. But most people know if you divide by 1, nothing changes. So most people just skip this step and say that we're done. Another way to look at it is to say, is x alone at this point in time? And the answer is yes, so you can stop. But the truth is, we stick to our rules, junk and divide. If you did divide by the 1, you still would end up with the exact same answer. So again, stick to the rules if you have to. Last but not least, example number 4. Now the reason why we like this one is because it's a one-stepper. If you draw your wall and you look at the x side, you will notice that there is no junk. There's no extra piece over here. So, no junk, go straight to divide. Division sign, -10, -10, and again let the calculator do the work. It should be -14.5. And that takes care of all the curveballs. You're officially ready, junk and divide.